Now there is one thing that stood out to me moving to Australia, which is way more expensive than the UK, and that is... Hello guys, welcome back to another video. So on this channel I've done quite a few videos where I compare the cost of living in Australia, the UK and New Zealand, as I have lived in all three countries, and it definitely sparks a lot of debate. A lot of people agree with my thoughts, a lot of people disagree. I've gone into overall which countries I think have a better cost of living, but in today's video I'm going to go into a few specifics between the UK and Australia, some things which are definitely cheaper in Australia than the UK, and some things the other way around from my personal experience. So for you guys who maybe want to move to either country, or you're going traveling, whatever, so you can have a bit of an idea of what things are more expensive, and then overall I will give you my opinions on which country has a better cost of living. You might already know if you've watched my other videos, but stay tuned to this one and we'll get into some specifics about the prices in each country. So let's start off with listing some things that I think are definitely cheaper in Australia than in the UK. Surprisingly, there is quite a long list of things which I actually found were cheaper in Australia. I expected Australia to be a very expensive country, which it is quite expensive, but from my experience, not too different to the UK. But this first list is the things that are definitely cheaper in Australia. So the first thing is coffee. Going out for a coffee, whether you're getting a few cakes with that, a bit of breakfast, but generally coffee is a lot cheaper in Australia. And from my experience, the coffee in Australia is a lot nicer than British coffee. Food in general, I would say is cheaper in Australia. Eating out is a bit cheaper. Generally in Australia, we will spend not that much going out, maybe $60, $70. If me and my girlfriend are both going for dinner at like an average place, it's like £30. You probably spend more than that in the UK a lot of the time. I found eating out a bit cheaper in Australia. The one thing that I have found is a lot cheaper in Australia, and that is takeaways. I mean, that's a pizza, Chinese, Indian. On average, we're probably only spending about $20 each on a takeaway. Whereas in the UK, I'd say on average, you're more likely going to be spending at least £20, which is like $40. So takeaways are way cheaper in Australia for sure. The next thing I would say is definitely cheaper in Australia is transport, but more specifically Ubers. Ubers are definitely cheaper in Australia than the UK. I don't know if this is just because in the city there is more Ubers to choose from and stuff, they can charge a lower price. I would have thought being in the city would have made the prices higher of Ubers, but generally getting an Uber about in Australian cities, I found is a lot cheaper than what I used to pay for an Uber back in the UK, where I'd pay like £5–10 sometimes for what, a 5–10 minute drive. It's definitely cheaper than that in Australia, which is pretty good to be fair. That Ubers are definitely cheaper. Taxis are not. Taxis, you will get ripped off. First day in Australia, we stupidly got a taxi and paid like $80 for a 15-minute drive. With Ubers, it would be nowhere near that price. The next thing that I found is definitely cheaper in Australia is clothes. Like buying clothes out, I found is definitely cheaper. Shoes, t-shirts, hoodies, for the exact same sort of stuff that you would get in the UK. I found like the exact same shops. Say for example, I get trainers from like JD or something. They are quite a bit cheaper in Australia than what they are in the UK. I also found that there's a lot more cheaper options in terms of shops for buying clothes. Places like Kmart are amazing. Like you can get decent quality t-shirts and stuff for like $10, like £5. I know there's a few bargains and stuff in the UK, but I bought quite a few clothes abroad, and especially shoes. I've got some really good deals where you would definitely be paying more back in the UK for sure. Now there is one thing that stood out to me moving to Australia, which is way more expensive than the UK, and that is alcohol. Whether that be buying bottles from the bottle shop, whether it's getting a beer in a bar, alcohol in Australia is so much more expensive than what it is in the UK. I also noticed that alcohol laws are a lot stricter in Australia compared to the UK. In the UK, you can walk into pretty much any little corner shop and buy a bottle. You can buy alcohol pretty much everywhere. There's not many laws. I've actually heard a lot of people complain about a big reason the nightlife in Australia is nowhere near as good as it used to be is because the laws are so strict now to do with alcohol. You can only buy alcohol in a specific alcohol shop in Australia, and I'm pretty sure it has to be before like 9 p.m. But aside from that, I've generally found alcohol is a lot more expensive in Australia. An example is back in the UK, I would buy a bottle of rum for a night out maybe. It would cost me about 13 or 14 pounds, which is about $28, less than $30. In Australia, if I wanted to buy that exact same bottle of rum, it would cost me at least $60, which is about 30 pounds. So bottles from the bottle shop, definitely more expensive, but even getting a pint out is more expensive. In Australia, they do something called a schooner, which is like 2/3 of a pint, so not even a pint. And generally I found that the price for a schooner is actually more than what an average pint would be back in the UK. So that was for me, that's the biggest difference in something is alcohol, because it's way more expensive in Australia, like way more. There's a few things which I can't comment on when comparing the prices of the two countries. One of them is rent. One of them is like an overall food shop, because I didn't do like a food shop back home. I used to live at home, so I paid a bit of money towards a food shop with my parents, but I didn't do the food shop. I wasn't paying rent. From what I've heard, rent is more expensive in Australia, particularly in the main cities. There's a bit of a housing crisis, as you might know. I can't confirm that for you, but what I've heard, generally, I think rent is a bit more expensive, but like I said, I can't confirm that because I didn't actually rent in the UK. Same with bills and stuff. I can't really compare that to the UK. But yeah, the things I did compare today, obviously there's a lot more little things I could compare. Overall, I have generally said that Australia has a better cost of living. That's because of the higher wage they pay in Australia. It's quite a bit higher than the UK. When you're considering that food is a bit cheaper, I would say, takeaways, eating out, Ubers, transport, clothes. When you consider that all of that is cheaper in Australia, plus a higher wage, it is definitely, for me, I found it a lot easier to save money in Australia than I did in the UK. Even though I was living at home, I was still able to save very good money in Australia for sure. The biggest thing is alcohol. If you're going out every single weekend, it's quite hard to save money, because an average night out in Australia, you'll be very lucky if you don't spend at least $100, honestly. Most likely more. I've had nights out in Australia where I've probably spent more than $200 like on a night out, which is mental. I probably had a few nights like that in the UK for sure, but in Australia, you're way more likely to pay a lot more money, especially paying entry into clubs and stuff. Like, your money is gonna go out the window if you're going out all the time. So that's just from my personal experience. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, yeah, I think Australia has a better cost of living, but there are certain things which the UK does beat Australia on. But both countries are getting very expensive, there's no doubt about that, but where isn't in the Western world right now? So thank you for watching. If you have any other comments, questions to do with moving from the UK to Australia and stuff like that, feel free to let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you very soon with another video.